Hello and welcome to Cultivators Conversations. This is episode 4. This is a video series brought to you by Cultivate, where we have a chat with a variety of people about several different topics of interest for change makers, culture champions, and people who generally just challenge the status quo. I'm your host, Jeff. I'm the community manager for the Cultivators community. And today we have a special guest, Kiante Miles. Kiante, welcome to the show. Why don't you tell us first and foremost, like, hey, what do you do? Who do you work for? Give us a little bit of context, and then maybe we'll get into why we're talking about you or with you.
Yeah, my name's Kiante Miles. I'm a technical analyst associate working for Three Bridge Solutions in their Boom Lab program inside the Minneapolis area.
Okay, now I heard a lot of words, and right. So, what does a technical analyst do?
So, what I actually do, my role is I'm in coding and software, and so basically I work with clients and help them with their kind of software technical needs.
Okay. The reason I wanted to bring you and introduce you to our Cultivators community is because I know a little bit of your backstory. You've been a Relay for Life volunteer, and as part of that, while in high school actually. When did you write?
When I started, yeah.
High school was when you started, and that's when you wrote the Cancer Slam, the relay poem, right? Or was
Correct.
it when? Okay, so he wrote. Everybody who's watching, Kiante wrote a poem. It's on YouTube. We'll post a link in the description.
If you count my total number of murders over the years, I should be on the FBI's most wanted list. But I'm not. LOL, JK, smiley face. They always seem to miss me. I hide in the depths of your skin. No doctor can find where I begin. Live more year than those who died on 9/11. You can be 5 or 77. I will still take your life as mine. I take your happiness, hair, health, and time. But hey, don't commit the crime of prejudice. You can be black, white, gay, straight, Christian, or Buddhist. I enslave all that exists. I have 100 types of transformations. I make millions go through radiation. I grow somewhere in the margin of about $50 billion, and I don't know about you, but that sounds like a white-collar job to me. Blind to the eye to see, you cannot stop me. When you hear my name, I make your tongue go lame when you're in the doctor's office with your wife. I'm the one who spews a ton of strife with your 5-year-old son who spews a ton of blood as an offering to me. Cannot stop me. I would 1/3 of your lives into my palm, and whether I make it so you can't go to your prom or I kill your mom, you still cannot stop me. The riddle that doesn't have an answer, you cannot stop cancer. But we can. You see, it started with a man who had enough of the general consensus, so he had a relentless idea. He wasn't just gonna stand around and wait for cancer to be done, so he got up and he began to run. And as he did, so did our chance for a cure. Now over 5,000 communities are making the opportunity to come into unity for 12 hours, and yes, I know it's tough. But remember, we have cancer, it doesn't have us. We fight for the ones that can't fight for themselves. We fight for the ones that put their lives on a shelf. We may have cancer, but we also have hope. And remember, we may have to deal with cancer, but cancer also has to deal with us. By the time I'm through, 36 people will be too. A lap for survivors, a lap for memories. None of this will do anything if we are complacent. So I say we do something that's a little bit more permanent. You can pull it all-nighter with your friends and some Mary Jane, but you can't do the same for someone who soon won't have a functional brain. I say we actually have a relay for life instead of a social gathering for life. And yes, that will mean you actually have to do some exercise, but I'd rather do that than cry, because I have a friend in heaven right now because of this monster. And I don't know if you believe in God or not, but I know you believe in cancer. I'm gonna fight until there's a cure. You'll see my face at relay. I better see yours.
Incredible. It's like goosebumps. It's inspiring. It's really well done, and it's something that the relay audience globally has really rallied around. So great job to you on that. And so it's slam poetry, right? And so you are a poet, you're a creator, you're an artist in many ways. But then you went on to college, and while at college, you had an idea. And you tell us about what that idea was, and we'll get into how you made it happen.
Yeah. So the college I went to, a little bit of background on how this idea kind of came about, has a program during our J term in which they fund a select group of students' ideas of global citizenship. And so I was thinking, I had this idea around poetry and just how I've been so blessed to have it open many doors for me and also many conversations for me. And when I was in high school, we didn't have a poetry club where I grew up. It's not like poetry was like a super cool thing to like be in the mix of. And I was like, poetry is super powerful. I've been able to see the power. What if I started a poetry program for high school students? And not only that, this was in 2016. So around 2016, you have the 2016 election, which was one of the very divisive and really kind of split our country apart. And not to say that our country wasn't already split apart, but you know, you really see this divide. And I was like, poetry is something that can bring people together. Poetry is also something that can help people see different sides and different perspective of things. And so my idea was, what if we started a poetry program to help high school students talk about controversial topics in healthy manners, but also give students a way to kind of have an outlet for their emotions. I mean, high school life in general is a really, you know, not easy all the time.
Right.
And so I know for me, I had sports, but also you only can get so much out in sports, and some people don't have sports, but I know poetry is something that is very universal and anyone can do. I know a lot of people are like, well, I'm not creative. And so we had example poems of kind of how to get started. And it was kind of like a format. And we were like, look, and then by the end of it, you know, they did the format and whatnot. And they're like, oh, wow, I have a poem. I'm like, yeah, there you go. So that's kind of the poetry program, was to help students talk about controversial topics. And so I would perform a poem for high school students. And then we would talk about, what was the poem about? How do we see these things come up? How do we feel about these things? And just kind of lead that conversation and then get into how to create your own poetry.
And has the program continued? So you've graduated and moved on. Mm-hmm. I would imagine you're probably kind of handed that off maybe to somebody. Is it still going on today?
So my vision for it is too big to just be staying at one college. It's more for something to grow.
To scale, really, right?
To scale, really. Yeah. And so my future idea of it, and right now it's kind of in a placeholder till we be able to get more funds and stuff and be able to have the time to get it started to go. But my idea is to take high school, college poets, be able to train them into how to perform it, and then scale, you know, that way they can go out and they can do this. And then underneath the name, and you can reach more people that way. It's not like something that I feel like, oh, it's something I have to do. I'm like, no, like it's something that's, you know, I started and it's supposed to spread. And the best way to spread it is by training other people to be able to do it.
Kind of a pay it forward type. Yeah. So, all right. So we'll go back to when you were in college, when you first had the idea, and let's get into maybe even the logistics of it. Right. Yeah. So when you first had the idea, who did you talk to about it?
Yeah, so I talked to Kate. She was the head of our entrepreneurship program at McAllister College in St. Paul. And I was just like, hey, like, you know, I do this poetry thing. Like, I really want to like kind of do some volunteer type work around it. I have this idea. And then she was like, oh, well, you know, and I think that was in like October. And she's like, well, you have 2 weeks to apply for this program that starts in December for the J term. And I was like, okay, well, there we go. And so it was kind of really cool how my school was able to just kind of, you know, you have an idea and they already have a program in place for it. And I think the program was started by students who were like, hey, the school should have a program that gives funding for students who want to do volunteer
change, who want to create to create culture, create change, or do something to contribute, right? And so in the application, how much of it did you have to spell out, or, you know, how much of it had to be baked before it had versus how much did you tweak and change as you went along?
So it had to be pretty baked in order. So I sat down at the time with a football teammate of mine, Ethan Levin. He already at the same time had an idea around football players. I think I'm trying to remember the giant acronym, but he started a program for high school students for football players. It was football players against sexual assault violence. But basically, so he already had kind of experience in getting into high school, stuff like that. And so we really had to bake it down to, all right, you have winter break. What are you going to do? How are you going to do it? And like, what's your like end result, right? And so what we ended up doing that winter break was I reached out to my high school in Mustang, Oklahoma. I'm very blessed that my mom teaches there, and I still have a lot of connections with the teachers there. I was like,
leverage your connection.
I started this poetry program. I'm starting this poetry program. Would love to, kind of launch it, pilot it with your students. And we were able to reach during that winter break over 2,000 students between my high school and then Ethan's high school here in the Twin Cities. And so we were able to kind of do this in two very different states, 8th grade to seniors, about 2,000 students. And also in Oklahoma was able to host an open mic for them so they could show off their poems that they wrote, or if they had already had other work, they could show it off, and, just really creating a space for them to be able to have that outlet, externally, and share that too.
Yeah. But I like that you had a mentor of sorts, right? You kind of went to somebody who had gone through the process to make it happen and allowed them to kind of help you along the way. And then that gave him a sense of ownership as well, to where you were able to include his high school.
Right.
So, all right, then, so you went through the process, you did it, you executed. And like you said, you have a bigger vision for, what can happen in, say, like a next phase of your life, of this dream. What would you change?
Tweaking how we operate. And so from just what I've seen from teachers that reach out to me that, we went to their classrooms and stuff like that, and they're still saying that, these English teachers, like, nope, like every time poetry, comes around, we like still do the lessons and stuff you teach me. I'm like, man, that was a couple years ago and they're still using it. So for me, I really realized that creating a curriculum for, maybe even teachers, English teachers, to be able to use and to be able to teach their students, they're going to have that relationship with their students that we're not necessarily going to have, because we're just coming in as strangers for a day or two and then we're out. Right. So being able to leave or create something and develop something with teachers, and then possibly if we're going to launch at a certain high school or something like that, we do like a poetry assembly, we do an event,
like a kickoff,
kind of like a kickoff for, like, usually, I think, at least for me, like poetry was always in the spring, like April time. So it's like, if they do that yearly around the same time every year, we come, boom, kind of do a kickoff, and so they can get the ball starting and stuff like that. I think it's something towards the end of, because I kind of worked on this in two different phases. The first was that winter, and then the next was the following summer.
I like that you kind of identified, in a sense, slam poetry should be a part of the standard poetry curriculum, and how do you kind of bake that into that? Because, right, if April, say a 4-week period, right, in high school, the English class, sophomore English class, whatever, is, they're studying Shakespeare and they're studying the classics and whatnot, and iambic pentameter and all that. But right, why not dedicate an equal amount of time, within that, like, let slam poetry come in, because it does show students that, that's what poetry is, right? That poetry is that there's no finite rule. It shouldn't be, at least, right? Yeah. That you should have that freedom. That's where the artistry comes from. And then the performance element to slam poetry is a whole nother thing, right? And now you're tying into, say, theater and performance arts and stuff. I mean, yeah. So I think personally, I think it's a great idea. I think where you are now, right, is, do you have any plans of what that next step is?
We can kind of break this into two parts. The nonprofit help schools, help high school students, help the youth type. And then we can also do be a diversity training for companies who have money and use that to kind of fuel the other side. And so I think long term for this to work, it's going to have to take that sort of approach.
Thanks for watching this episode of Cultivators Conversations. This was part 1 of my conversation with Kiante Miles. Be sure to watch part 2, where we talk about his idea for building his Slam Poetry Club initiative so that it could be part of companies' diversity and inclusion programs. And of course, if you're a change maker or a culture champion who's always thinking of ways to improve the status quo, you may want to join our Cultivators community. Just go to cultivateall.com/cultivators.